Fed up of floor robes, driven to distraction and drowning with doom boxes? Tired of living in chaos? Welcome to Decluttering Untangled, how to declutter when you're overwhelmed, ADHD or autistic. I'm going to help you uncover the secrets to decluttering, no matter what hurdles you face. You'll discover how to declutter, de-stress and transform your world. I'm Heather Tingle, reformed hoarder, neurodivergent declutter queen, and your guide through the maze of mess. Let's get untangled. Hello Untanglers, and welcome to another episode of Decluttering Untangled with me, your host, Heather Tingle. Now, today's episode is another listener request, and I love this. Now, this person has decluttered their home, woohoo, but was horrified to find the clutter had come back and they wanted my take on it. So I'm going to do that here, as I think if you're lucky enough to be in the situation, now I am using lucky for a real reason, if you're lucky enough that you are in this situation, then well done you. You've done a lot of hard work and effort and there's been time involved. So well done for getting to this part. But I think if you're going to be in this situation, you're going to need this information, because more and more of you join my world. So many more of you are now at this point where you've decluttered and something is missing. So you've done a big declutter. Everything feels lighter and calmer. You spent so much time, effort, energy, blood, sweat and tears into decluttering to get the job done. Then a few weeks later, you start to notice the piles forming again. Now the clutter has crept back in. Now, today I want to talk to you about why it happens, why it is totally normal and to be expected. So do not make it a surprise when you get to this point, and also how you can deal with it without feeling like you are back at square one, because you definitely are not. I think the first part is to recognize there are different steps to decluttering. So if you're at this point, you've actually done two of the steps. So there is the first sift where you go through stuff and let go of easy wins. And then there is the in earnest declutter where you're going all in and doing it properly. And that is probably where you are at. Then there is the strategizing to be able to maintain it. And then there is the maintaining part. So it's really a 4-part process, really. And probably 5 if you include the exit plans too. Now, if you go through all these parts, then life is so much simpler, so much easier, and well, clutter-wise anyway. But what often happens is we do the first sift and we do the full-on decluttering and we miss the strategizing and maintaining part, because we think, well, we've done it now, we've done the declutter, I don't need to do anything now. Unfortunately, that is not the way it works. But I will tell you that the last part, the maintaining, if you get the strategizing part, is where it becomes easier, is where it becomes an automatic thing, is where you don't really need to do a lot of time, effort and energy. So for me now, I'm at the maintaining part and I only really need to do it maybe twice a year. So spring, summer, because I've probably got more winter clothing and summer clothing from last year that I think actually I'm probably not going to wear that again. And in September, August, September, getting ready for the new school year is where we would go through my daughter's clothes, because she's growing so quickly and her tastes are changing. So I really no need to do those big declutters. And I'm using that word weirdly. I only need to do them twice a year. But actually, those weird declutters now take maybe an hour, 2 hours maximum out of an entire year. So that's where I'm at now. And you can get to that part too. However, if you've only just done the big declutter and the first sift and then the big declutter, clutter is sneaky. You know, it comes in through everyday life. Things are always coming into our homes. Post, shopping, gifts, school stuff, hobbies, work stuff, life's different seasons. So stuff is always coming in. Now, if stuff isn't always going out, of course you're going to get more clutter. That's what happens. But it's important to know you didn't fail. You've not done anything wrong. To get to this part, well done. You are doing a really great thing. So well done, you. You didn't fail. You've not done anything wrong. This is a natural part of the process. You just need to refine it. You've done the big stuff. Now we're refining and honing the skills. So you didn't fail. Life has just happened. So you need to look at what comes into your home now every day and how you can minimize that coming in. So you're going to see those dump piles. You're going to see and look at what is the stuff that is now coming into your home that you don't realize is coming in. then how can you minimize it? Or how can you work with removing a similar amount of volume as to what is coming in? Because that's where the discrepancy is. There's also the fact that now you've got clear spaces, it only takes one item to turn them back into a dumping ground again. Woo! So clear spaces just invite things to be dumped on them, let's face it. So for example, kitchen counters, hall tables, bedside tables. Why it happens is because our brains still love a drop zone. We still look at those places as empty spaces, and empty spaces to start off with can feel a bit empty, I suppose, and we're not used to empty. We still need to get our head around empty. So have a look at the type of item that's getting dumped there and look at the reason why it's dumped there. Does it have a home? Well, if it doesn't, then that is the thing that you need to do, and that's what's missing. If it does have a home, though, it's obviously not in the right place, or it needs refining in some way. There's some kind of barrier to getting it into that home. So what is making it too hard for it to get there? Because don't forget, you've got to work with the systems of putting things away easily, even if you are absolutely shattered. So when you're at your worst, how do you put things away? What can you remove? What steps can you remove? What barriers can you remove to make it easy to put them away? And let's face it, it does take time for our brains to adapt to our new space. So old habits like just dropping the post down or putting the bags without thinking. And what I noticed I did with mine is I know it won't take long anymore. So I'll just pop that there because it will only take me 2 minutes to do it. And in my head, it was like, well, I can do it easy now. It's only going to take me 2 minutes. I'll do those 2 minutes later. My brain needs to be going into if you say you're going to do it later, you're not going to do it. It's going to come a big problem. Do it now because it's only going to take you 2 minutes. So that whole bit with the early episode of do it now mentality, that's the one that you need to start re-listening to again, I think, because that will have it will resonate so differently with you now you've got a decluttered home. So think about what your old habits are and where you are now with your home, and actually what is the reason behind the dumping it there. And look also at little tiny habit swaps. So instead of the post straight into the recycling folder, instead of just popping it on the side for later, things like emptying your bag at the door. So obviously last week's podcast on sorting out your handbags. Create those little resets consistently, not consistently. It's really hard to be consistent. It's really hard to be constantly doing the same thing, especially if you're ADHD. However, find a way so that you can do it relatively frequently so it doesn't build up into a big thing. So emptying your bag at the door and doing resets before bed. So the places before bed have got those empty work surfaces again, those empty surfaces that our brains freak out so much about doing. There's also the issue of decision fatigue. So clutter creeps in when you're too tired to decide where something belongs. Now, if this is making it too hard to put it away, then either one of two things. You either have still too much stuff or the home isn't working for when you're at your most tired. So something else to consider is going back to the categories of items you decluttered when you first started, because it's highly likely if it was your first lot of decisions, you were better at that now and you can be more ruthless. So give that a go. Remember, you're aiming for 75 or 80% full at all times, so it's easy to put away and you've got a bit of wiggle room and a bit of space because it feels nicer then to put things away. Now, if it's over full, see if you can let things go. And it might be that now you've got decluttered everything, things can swap around or move in your home so that they're in better places. You'll probably be surprised at what further items you can now let go of from the items that you decluttered right at the start when you weren't really up on decluttering. You hadn't made enough decisions to be really, really good at it. So I would have another quick declutter of those early categories. But I think it's also really important to remember that decluttering is not a one and done. Yes, the bulk of the stress is done. The big effort is done, but it is about maintaining it. So just like cleaning your teeth or laundry, I know those two not great examples from some of us, but it does need regular attention. It needs to have those relooks quite frequently. So mini declutters once a week, once a month to keep things from building back up again. Depending on the type of item that is coming into your home will depend on what you then need to make sure you're decluttering regularly. Finding that one in, one out can really work with things like paperwork and clothing. So every new item that you're coming in, remove an old item because that will keep the volume the same, and that's where you want to end up really. But also There's a little shame spiral alert going on here. A lot of people think, oh my God, I've already decluttered. I've failed because it's back. You haven't. We need to normalize this. Clutter returning does not mean you failed. It means you're living a life. It means you're in the real world. So stop beating yourself up about it and realize this is part of it. And the next step is learning the strategies and systems to keep on top of it. One thing that can really help give you a little cheer up, really, I would say, is having certain spaces that you consistently keep clear. So whether that's a kitchen table, a bedside table, coffee table, have one or two areas that you will always reset each night and keep those items clear, because that will make you feel so much better, like you are on top of things. And even if the clutter creeps back elsewhere, it does give you a sense of calm and control that they are still beautiful. Now, I know someone that treats themselves to flowers each week on their dining room table and sets it as if they're having an extravagant lunch, because that is the only way to stop others in the house dumping their stuff on the table. So what can you do to discourage those dumping grounds from happening in the first place? Be warned, though, a little public service announcement. I am seeing people like on Pinterest and Instagram putting things on top of kitchen hobs and cookers. Please do not do this. It is such a fire risk. And I know people think it will never happen to them, but you do not want it happening to you. Okay, so to summarize, clutter will always sneak back in, but it does not mean you are failing. It just means that you need those systems and habits and mini resets and the same volume leaving as what you have coming in. So how can you make that happen? So pick a small spot today, maybe a kitchen counter or your bedside table, and just give it a quick reset. Notice how just having one clear space changes how you feel, and really look at the items that have ended up there and try and figure out why. Okay, so be kind to yourself. Remember, you are not alone, and keep untangling. Thanks for joining me for today's episode of Decluttering Untangled. If you found anything that I've said today helpful, please do me a favour, hit that subscribe button or leave me a review. It's like receiving a virtual high five that keeps me going and lets me know that I'm helping real people out there and I'm making a difference. Please remember, you're not alone in this. I'm building a community of fellow untanglers over on Facebook. Just visit the show notes for the link to my free decluttering community. So until next time, remember, you're not alone, you're not lazy, you can untangle your life.